Another day with no Hillary Clinton campaign events. Is Donald Trump putting her on defense? Welcome, everyone. I'm Stuart Varney in for Neil Cavuto, and this is Your World. Donald Trump ramping up his attack on his Democratic opponent today over those new email revelations, saying voters will be the final jury. All of this as Clinton is facing growing pressure to hold a formal news conference. She's not held one in 263 days. More on that in a moment. First, to Blake Berman, who is following the Trump campaign. Blake.
Hi there, Stuart. Donald Trump and his campaign made the Clinton Foundation its main focus, its main priority all throughout the day. At a rally in Florida earlier this afternoon, Trump renewed his calls for a special prosecutor to look into his opponent. He said Hillary Clinton ran the State Department like a failed leader of a third world country, and he predicted the fallout is just beginning. Watch.
With the administration rigging the system, it's a rigged system, folks, to protect her vast criminal behavior, the real jury is going to be the American voter on November 8th.
Well, the Associated Press has reported that of the 154 non-government people they reviewed who Clinton met with, 85 had ties to Clinton charitable donations. Critics say that suggests access to the Secretary of State revolved around money. However, the Clinton campaign calls this story utterly flawed. Stuart, they say, for example, that Clinton took over 1,700 meetings with world leaders. Stuart?
Blake Berman, thanks very much indeed, Blake. Now,
thanks.
263 days. That's how long it's been since Hillary Clinton has held a formal news conference, as this email controversy continues to escalate. Her campaign manager was asked directly today if she planned on holding one, and he appeared to laugh it off. Roll tape.
We're considering everything every day. She has been answering questions. She's going to continue to do that. I think all we would ask is that people don't cherry pick, 100-something meetings and then say that half of them were with Clinton Foundation donors at the exclusion of 1,700 other meetings.
Well, conservative commentator Ashley Pratt says this is no laughing matter. Democrat strategist Chuck Roker isn't worried. He says it won't have any impact on voters. Well, Chuck, whether it has impact on voters, yes or no, I don't know. But surely she has an obligation to answer these questions in front of the media, doesn't she?
Well, some would say she has to answer these questions, and if I was advising her, I'd say, have your press conference, take this off the plate so we don't quit talking about it. But at the end of the day, when you talk to a voter, that undecided voter, they're not undecided because she hadn't had a press conference, but a smart political move was go ahead and have it, take it off the plate so you could talk about policy differences instead of whether you've had a press conference or not. So that's where I think the people come down on that piece.
Okay, Ashley, do you expect her to hold a press conference on this?
No, and the fact is her lack of transparency and her nonchalance about this whole entire email scandal and pretty much every scandal surrounding her is an insult to the American public. She is running for the highest office, and yet she feels she is not accountable in any way to the American people. And that's what is the root of the problem here, Stu, is the fact that she is consistently thinking she is above the law and that she doesn't need to be held accountable by anyone, and that by every standard she is doing the right thing by not answering any questions because they make her, obviously in a bad light. They make her look bad, and she doesn't want to look that way to the American people.
Maybe Chuck's right. Maybe she's doing the right thing politically. Stay quiet when you're under the gun.
Oh, my goodness. But, Stu, think about it. She does everything out of political convenience, and it's about time that she's held accountable for the things that she's done. The problem here is if you're running for the highest office, you might not like what Donald Trump says when he holds press conferences, but at the same time, he's holding them. And she's not doing that. She is not being accessible. She is not being transparent. Two things that she says she is, but she clearly is not. And when there is so much controversy, and if she believes she did nothing wrong, why not answer those questions and let the American people know that you're willing to answer them?
Chuck, I want you to listen to this. This is from David Axelrod, the man who put Barack Obama in the White House, basically. Here's what he has to say. Roll tape.
I think she should not joke about this. She's done this a few times. She seemed flippant about it. Obviously, there are concerns about how she handled these emails, and all these jokes fall flat, and it makes it seem as if she's not taking the issue seriously.
Now, the jokes he's referring to were on Jimmy Kimmel Live when she did laugh it off. Axelrod says no laughing matter, Chuck.
So David Axelrod is a wise man. So as you know, and your viewers know this, I was a senior strategist for Bernie Sanders. When you have your candidates, it's how you respond. Now, we're talking about two different things. When I said she should have the press conference, absolutely. But the reaction is something that people do see, especially when you're underwater with your trustworthy numbers. You need to find a way to where you think the American people will back to trusting you a little bit at a time. Having a press conference may not be it, but the way you respond to it is very critical, and I think that's what Axelrod is getting to. And that could be a problem.
Chuck, you sound very much like you would urge Hillary Clinton to have that press conference.
Well, anytime as a political consultant, you're not talking about your core issues on the differences between the candidate, you're talking about press conferences, or even with Donald Trump and tax returns, you're not on your core message, and you don't want that when you're running for the highest office, as Ashley just said.
A last one to Ashley. Does she win politically by staying quiet?
I don't think so. At the end of the day, I think she has a big uphill battle here because of the fact that she chooses to not be transparent with the American people. And one thing I will say, Stu, all of her jokes around this seem to fall flat. Remember when she said, oh, like with a cloth or something, when she talked about wiping her server clean? It's not funny. What she did here could have potentially broken the law when it comes to her emails. And then now there's controversy surrounding the Clinton Foundation. And that pay-to-play access will cost her big time if she does hold the highest office.
Ashley Pratt, Chuck Rocha, thanks very much, both of you, for joining us. Okay. Now, this latest Clinton email bombshell is coming from the Associated Press, but the revelations did not come easily. The news agency wrote this. The AP sought Clinton's calendar and schedule 3 years ago, but delays led the AP to sue the State Department last year in federal court for those materials and other records. To the National Review's Ileana Johnson, why a 3-year delay? Is that kind of delay normal?
It's not at all normal, Stu, and I think we're seeing increasingly why Hillary Clinton set up this private email server in her home that clearly was there to skirt Freedom of Information Act requests for her emails. And now we see that even when Freedom of Information Act requests were submitted, to which reporters and members of the general public are entitled responses to under federal law, they were not responded to in the Clinton State Department, which is absolutely galling. The lack of transparency went not only from her own personal actions with the email server, but were department-wide from the members of her department who were responding to these requests for her calendars.
But you know, all this legalistic backwards and forwards, doesn't it go over everybody's head? It's just another piece of legalism.
Sure. You know, Stuart, I think that you can argue, and you're probably right, that these individual, these individual things do go over people's head. But the general matter, her lack of transparency, her lack of trustworthiness, that certainly doesn't go over people's head. And this drip, drip, drip of headlines is leading to what are her historic untrustworthy and unlikability numbers that we see in every single poll that comes out. And I don't think that's likely to change between now and Election Day.
Let's suppose you're a very normal voter, you're not that interested in politics. On the one side, you see Hillary Clinton in a photo booth with Justin Timberlake. On the other side, you see a complex legalistic argument about a 3-year delay to get hold of some records. What are you going to pay attention to?
Well, I think right now the truth is that Donald Trump is the person who's dominating the headlines every day. And were he able to really prosecute the case against Hillary Clinton using these headlines that are really being handed to him on a silver platter, he would really have a devastating case to make. Unfortunately, we don't see him really doing that effectively day in, day out. He really needs to be beating the drum on this from the moment he rises until the moment he goes to bed every single day.
He was really beating the drum today, I'll tell you that. Ileana, thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart.